17 when I first saw her. Our house sat at the end of a quiet road, surrounded by woods, the kind of place where the night felt heavier than it should. One summer night, around 2 a.m., I woke up with the strange feeling that someone was watching me. At first, I ignored it, but the sensation kept growing stronger until I finally turned my head toward the window. She was there, a woman in a long, dirty white dress standing perfectly still, her forehead pressed against the glass. Her eyes were wide open, not blinking, not moving, staring directly into my room as if she had been there for hours. I froze. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I just watched her, trying to figure out if she was real. After what felt like minutes, she slowly lifted her hand and dragged her fingertip across the window, making a faint squeaking sound. That snapped me out of it. I ran to my parents' room. My dad rushed outside with a bat, but there was no sign of her. No footprints, no movement, nothing. The next morning, when the sunlight filled my room, I noticed something I hadn't seen the night before. On the glass, from the inside, someone had written one word with a fingertip. Let me in. I used to work the overnight shift at a small rural motel just outside Highway 27, the kind of place where the neon sign flickers more than it glows, and guests check in mostly to disappear rather than rest. Most nights were uneventful. A few truckers, a few strange couples, and the hum of the ice machine filling the silence. But one night around 2:13 a.m., the motel phone rang. Not my personal phone, not the desk phone, no, the old beige landline in the maintenance room. That phone hadn't rung in years. It wasn't even connected to the system anymore. Or so I thought. At first I let it ring, assuming it was a wiring glitch, but it wouldn't stop. Slow, rhythmic rings, like someone was timing each one deliberately. I went to the back room and picked it up. I didn't say anything. I just listened. At first, there was only breathing, wet, shaky breathing, like someone had just run a long distance. Then, a voice whispered, almost like it was in the room with me instead of on the line. Room 9. That was all. No request, no explanation. Just that. Room 9. I hung up and stood there frozen. Only one problem. Room 9 had been unoccupied for months. It was permanently closed. A guest had died inside it 3 summers ago. Officially, it was a heart attack. Unofficially, well, let's just say anyone who worked that motel avoided the door at the end of the hallway. I returned to the front desk and tried to distract myself, but I couldn't. After about a minute, the motel cameras flickered. Every single feed glitched, except one. Room 9. The door camera suddenly turned on, even though the room had no active reservation, and no one should have had a key. The screen showed the door slightly open, just an inch. Enough to see darkness inside, but nothing else. No guest, no movement, just the door creaking in the air-conditioned breeze. I leaned closer to the monitor, trying to convince myself it was a glitch, when the maintenance phone rang again. This time the voice wasn't whispering. It was clearer, louder, almost angry. Someone is in my room. I dropped the phone. I didn't want to go down that hallway, but if someone had broken in, it was my job to check. So I grabbed the master key and walked slowly down the corridor. Every step felt heavier, the air colder. Halfway down, the lights began buzzing and dimming, one by one behind me, like something was following just out of sight. When I reached room 9, the door was now open wider, 3 or 4 inches. Enough that I could see part of the old dresser inside, enough that I could hear something moving. I called out, Hello? Motel staff? Did someone enter this room? Silence. Dead, suffocating silence. I pushed the door open an inch more, and that's when I heard it. A tapping sound. Soft, deliberate, coming from inside the bathroom, like someone tapping their nails slowly against the mirror. I should have left. Any sane person would have left. But something pulled me in. Curiosity, fear, or maybe the hope that there really was a living person inside and not something else. I stepped inside. It felt colder than outside by at least 10 degrees. I called out again, but my voice came out shaky. The tapping continued. Same rhythm, same speed, like a message or a warning. I walked to the bathroom door. The tapping stopped. I reached for the light switch. The moment I flipped it, the bathroom mirror reflected something behind me. Not a person, not a shadow, but a face leaning just inches from my shoulder, grayish, sunken, hollow-eyed, staring at me as if it had been waiting for me all night. I jerked around, but nothing was there. The room was empty, completely empty. I ran out and slammed the door, but as soon as I stepped back into the hallway, the maintenance phone rang from the front desk. I didn't even have to pick it up. The voicemail system captured it automatically. A message appeared on the screen. New voicemail from Room 9. Room 9 didn't have a phone. It hadn't had one since the night the guest died. With my hands shaking, I played the message. At first, just static. Then that same shaky breathing. Then the voice. Closer, clearer, deeper. I told you, it said. Someone is in my room. The message ended with a long, dragging scrape, like something being pulled across the bathroom floor. The next morning, I sealed Room 9 permanently. And I quit that same week. But sometimes, around 2:13 a.m., my cell phone vibrates with a number I don't recognize. The caller ID always shows the same thing. Room 9. I worked the night security shift at a power company on the outskirts of town. A place surrounded by empty fields and humming electrical towers that always felt a little too alive. The job sounded simple enough. Sit in a booth, watch the cameras, and make sure no one trespassed near the substation. Most nights were silent, the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. But on my third week, things changed. Every night at exactly 3:20 a.m., the floodlights along the fence began to flicker. Not random flickering. No, it was always in order. Light pole 1, then 2, then 3. Almost like footsteps moving down the fence line. At first, I assumed it was faulty wiring or maybe some big animal, but the cameras never caught anything. No shadows, no movement, just lights dimming one after another, as if something tall enough to block them was passing by. I mentioned it to my supervisor the next morning, and he barely looked up from his coffee before muttering, "Don't look for it. Don't follow the lights." No explanation. No warning, just that one sentence. I should have listened. A few nights later at the same time, the lights began their pattern again. One flickered, then the next, and the next. This time, they didn't stop at the far end of the fence. They continued pole after pole, moving in a perfectly straight line toward my security booth. I sat forward, staring at the monitors. Still nothing. Just lights reacting to some invisible presence. Then my radio crackled to life. Only 2 people had access to the channel. Me and the supervisor, who had clocked out hours earlier. The static grew louder, then a voice pushed through, deep, slow, distorted, repeating the same words I'd heard days before, but not in the supervisor's voice. "Don't follow the lights." I dropped the radio like it burned me and stared out the booth window. just in time to see the last pole before my booth flicker violently and then go dark. The darkness around it felt heavy, like a thick curtain swallowing everything beneath it. The temperature in the booth dropped, my breath turning white in front of me. The metal trash can rattled softly, as if the ground outside had just shifted under something massive. Against every instinct I had, I cracked the booth door open and pointed my flashlight outside. The beam stopped instantly when it reached the patch of darkness under the dead light. Not faded, not dimmed. It simply stopped, like the dark was solid. Something moved inside it. A shape, tall, taller than any person, swaying with unnatural weight. Gravel crunched under it as it took one slow step toward me. I stumbled back, flashlight shaking in my hand. Before I could shut the door, the darkness pulsed outward, and something stretched from it. An arm, or something shaped like one, bending in ways bones should never bend, reaching toward my face. I slammed the door and locked it, my heart pounding loud enough to drown out everything else. The booth shuddered as something struck the exterior. Once, then again. Then a long scraping sound dragged across the metal, like claws carving into it. The floodlights buzzed violently before shutting off entirely. Total darkness swallowed the substation. I sat in that booth until sunrise, frozen in place. I didn't breathe until I heard the day shift crew arrive. When I finally stepped outside, the booth door had 6 long gouges carved deep into the metal, each mark perfectly straight and spaced, as if something with enormous hands had raked its claws down the surface. My supervisor pulled up 20 minutes later, took one look at the scratches, and shook his head, like this was nothing unusual. "I told you not to follow the lights," he said, walking away as if he'd seen this happen before. I quit right there, and to this day, whenever I'm out late and streetlights start flickering in a line, one, then the next, then the next, I turn my car around without looking back, because whatever was walking under those lights that night feels like it never stopped following.